For joining us today as we talk about the 2020 tax season. Today, we had another webinar about a month ago that we talked about a lot of details about the 20 tax season and how to prepare to tax return, what documents you need. Today, we want to focus on 3 items that are going to be impacting specifically 2020 taxes. One of them is the unemployment. Another one is the rebate recovery credit, and then the look backs. So today we're going to actually have Maria Romero, the paralegal for Low Income Taxpayer Clinic, joining me, and she'll be doing part of the presentation. So Maria, take it away.
Thank you, Kathy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria, and I will be going over the unemployment compensation. So if you look to your right, you will see a form that the state goes out and sends out to report any unemployment compensation that you might have received. This form is also known as a 1099-G. So any unemployment compensation that you received, as well as any withholding that was withheld from this income, will be reported on this form. Something to keep in mind is that between the moment that you applied for the unemployment compensation and now, if you did move, the state did go ahead and send out this form to the address that you provided on your application. So like I said, if you did move, you will need to go ahead and request a new copy. To do this, you can go online and go to the Florida Department Economic Opportunity website. And once you're there, if you click on your top right, there should be a section that says My 1099-G. You will go ahead and click on there. It will bring you to an application. You will provide your most recent information, and then it will take you to another portion of the application that will tell you if you need to go ahead and request, or if you want to go ahead and request a hard copy to be mailed out to this address or an electronic copy. Something to keep in mind is that, let's say you received unemployment compensation and you are now receiving letters from the state saying that you are no longer, or that you weren't eligible to receive this unemployment compensation, you must still report this income in your 2020 tax return. So let's say you go ahead and you report this income and it is deemed that you owe money to the IRS. You can either, one, pay the income or the amount that you owe at the time of the filing, or two, request to be placed on current non-collectible status. To do this, you can either, one, call the IRS on your own and request to be placed on this status, or two, reach out to legal aid and have us help you to be placed on this status. Something to keep in mind though is that, let's say you are placed on current non-collectible status, you will still be inquiring interest and penalties due to the amount that you owe until this amount is paid. Something to also keep in mind is, let's say you fail to report this income on your 2020 tax return, you will be assigned a penalty of 0.5% every month in increments up until 25% that will be applied until you report this income. Alrighty, so now I'll go ahead and provide 2 examples of an individual that received unemployment compensation with 2 different scenarios, but the same context that applies of unemployment compensation does need to be reported. So let's say you are married and you file married filing jointly. Let's say throughout 2020, your spouse received a W-2 of $9,000, and then you received only unemployment compensation amounting to $15,000. The standard deduction for a married filing jointly couple is $24,800. So let's say you put it on a tax preparation website and it deems that there is 0 taxable income and you don't owe the IRS anything. This form still needs to go ahead and be filed, as well as the unemployment compensation be reported. Now in scenario number 2, let's say you are single and you have no dependents. Let's say in 2020, at the beginning of the year, you did go ahead and work as a W-2 employee and received an income of $10,000 with $800 of withholding. Then towards the end of the year, you were laid off, you applied for unemployment compensation, and they went ahead and provided you in total with $15,000 with 0 withholdings. The standard deduction for a single individual with no dependents is $12,400. Let's say you place this on the tax preparation website and it is deemed that you have a taxable income of $12,600. Your tax responsibility that was then calculated of being $1,310. And then they went ahead and took out the $800 that you had of withholdings. So it was deemed that you owed $510. At that point, you would either be able to, one, make the payment if you do have income available to you, or two, be placed on current non-collectible. As stated before, if you are placed on current non-collectible, interest and penalties will still be assigned, and you do need to go ahead and report this income regardless of the outcome of the filing of the 2020 tax return. So with that, I'll go ahead and send it back to Kathy.
Well, thank you, Maria. Now we're going to talk about the rebate recovery credit. I've had a lot of questions from the community and taxpayers regarding this credit. How does it work? So we're going to go to some of the details. So the first thing I want to go over, and I know most of you already know this information, but we need to talk about the economic impact payments or the stimulus payments that we received last year, the beginning of this year. So some of the income limits were if you're a single person, if you earned less than $75,000 in 2019, in 2018, depends on which tax return and which year the IRS used to see your eligibility. So $75,000 for a single person. A married filing jointly was $150,000, so double from the single. And if you were head of household, $112,500. So if you were eligible, you should have received so there's another eligibilities, okay. No one claimed you as a dependent. So no one claimed you as a dependent if you're an adult. And then you must have a social security number that is eligible for employment, okay? If you had all this, you should have received the economic impact payments. Again, the stimulus checks that we received. And you should have received the first payment was of $1,200, $1,200 for every adult on the tax return, and for every child was $500. So that's the first set of payments that we received mid-year in 2020. Again, for every adult on your tax return, married filing jointly, meaning $2,400, or single person filing on its own, on his or her own, $1,200. Then for every dependent under the age of 17. So I know a lot of us claims, or children who are 17, 18, 19, unfortunately, they did not qualify for this payment, okay? The second batch that we received early this year, it was of $600, once again, $600 for the taxpayer or taxpayers if you file jointly, and then $600 for every dependent under the age of 16, okay? I've also gotten a lot of questions, and I am not going to talk much about the $1,400 that are on the news a lot because it's not law yet. They might have some different rules about adult dependents on tax returns, but for now we're going to talk about the 2 rounds of stimulus checks that we actually did receive. There's a couple of changes that happened during this time. One of them, it was the mixed household with immigration status. In other words, if you file a married filing jointly tax return with a spouse that does not have a social security number, but they file with an ITIN, and the other taxpayer has a social security number, the Congress had said that these tax returns were not eligible for any of the economic impact payment. So we received 0 for the first round and probably did receive something for the second round, but most likely you did not either, okay? These households now, once again, Congress decided that if you have a mixed taxpayer tax return, meaning the taxpayer, not the dependents, just the taxpayers, if one has a social security number and the other has an ITIN, they are eligible for the economic impact payment, both rounds, and any dependent on that tax return under the age of 17 who has also a Social Security benefit. Like I said, you did not receive for sure the first round of payments. Maybe you received the second, and I'm gonna tell you what you need to do to claim that money from this first batch of stimulus payments that were sent out. Also, once again, just saying that if you were claimed as a dependent on on someone's 2018 or 2019 tax return, you were not eligible. So you now you must file your own tax return, your 2020 tax return, independently. Okay, so you file your own tax return. It's going to ask you, did you receive? You seem to be eligible to receive the economic impact payment. Did you receive it? You put no, or you talk to your tax preparer and say, no, I did not receive either the $1,200 or the $600, and then they can go ahead and claim the rebate recovery credit for you. Next slide. All right. So once again, if you did not receive either, you're eligible, everything, you know, the eligibility is there. You did not receive either the $1,200 or you didn't receive the $500 for your dependents of the second round. A lot of people did not receive the second round. It's just because the IRS, Congress actually put a deadline for the IRS to send out these payments of January 15, because everything that was happening, a lot of these payments were not sent out. And now you're in that position that you're going to have to go ahead and request the rebate recovery credit on your 2020 tax return, okay? So how do you do this? Again, when you're doing your tax return, you can go ahead and tell your tax preparer you're doing it online. There's, in the IRS website, you can go to free tax. And if you made less than $66,000, you're able to prepare your taxes on your own for free. And you know that you're getting all the money. And if not, you can, you can use a VITA website or you can use a VITA site to prepare your tax return. And you can tell them, hey, look, I did not receive either the first round or the second round, okay? And now they're going to be putting in line 30. So you need to look at your line 30 on your form 1040 on your tax return, how much money you did not receive and how much money you're requesting. How much of this rebate recovery credit you are going to say, hey, IRS, you didn't send me this much. Let's say it's the $1,200 from the first round. You didn't receive this. You didn't send me this, and therefore I'm claiming it now. You must do this whether you worked in 2020 or whether you didn't work or whether you have a filing requirement. Right now, as it stands, all this information is up to 12/13 on February 17. A lot of things may change because the IRS is saying that they might do a non-filer request for 2020 if someone is just requesting this rebate recovery credit. But as it stands right now, you must file a tax return, a full tax return to claim this credit, okay? Like I said, even if you don't have a filing requirement, even if you don't, you have to file a tax return. Maybe your only source of income is from Social Security or whatever it is, you must file a 2020 tax return and request the rebate recovery credit, okay? And again, I do want to stress for those individuals, those who were claimed as dependents either in a 2018 or 2019 tax return, if they want to go ahead and request the stimulus payments, they have to file a 2020 tax return on their own. They cannot be claimed on someone's tax return because it will get denied again. They have to do a tax on their own, and therefore, whomever is claiming that person as a dependent cannot claim them on their 20 tax return. For example, let's say I claim my mother as my dependent. I did it for 2018, I did it for 2019. She didn't get any of the stimulus checks. Now she wants to claim them. She must file her own tax return for 2020, and I cannot put her as my dependent on my 2020 tax return. If I do put her as my dependent in 2020, and I claim the rebate recovery credit for her, it is going to get denied because once again, she's not eligible because she is a dependent that is above the age of 17 or above, okay? So it's something very important to know, and it's something that you need to talk to your tax preparer about when you're making that decision whether to claim an adult on your tax return or not, okay? Let's move to the next one. So once again, once you claim a credit on a tax return, this is no longer an advance payment on your 2020 taxes. You're actually making a claim on a tax return, and different rules apply. When the stimulus payments went out in advance back in June or May, in early this year in February, even if you owed money for taxes, so previous years you had a tax liability, whether it's a state tax, federal tax, student loans. The only thing that the first batch was used to offset if you had child support debts, but if the second round did not have this. So anything the IRS did not take into account any of the other debt that you may have, and they went ahead and submitted and sent out these payments. If you are making a claim because you didn't get your stimulus payments, either the first or the second, and you're filing a 2020 tax return requesting the rebate recovery credit, unfortunately, this is just like a regular refund that will be used to offset any debt, meaning any state taxes. I know here in Florida, we normally don't pay income tax, but some corporations do it, but I don't want to get into too much detail. Any child support, any student loans, and any debt that you may have with the IRS for previous years. Once again, let's make an example. Let's say I go ahead and I didn't get my first round of stimulus payments. I didn't file a 2018 tax return. And then when I finally filed my 2019, it was too late, whatever. And I do owe money for a previous tax liability. Let's say for 2016, I owe $1,000. When I go ahead and file my tax return this year and I say, hey, IRS, you didn't give me my rebate, my economic impact payment of $1,200, so I'm going to claim the credit. It's gonna give me a refund, let's say of $1,000. Let's make it easy. Then the IRS is gonna say, oh, no, you have a 2016 liability. We are not actually going to be sending you the refund. We're going to be applying it to your 2016 liability. Like I said, this is true until today. Now, as February 17th, there's a lot of talk about maybe making a change here, but as it stands right now, the law is that any refund, including any claim of the rebate recovery credit, will be applied to any liability, whether it's a state tax, federal tax, child support, student loans. And I know student loans is still in that kind of like frozen. And so if you owe money in your student loans, that shouldn't be a factor. But any other debt, like I said, taxes, state, whether state or federal, child support, the IRS will go ahead and use this to offset, okay? This is also true for so a lot of people who have filed an offering compromise. As you know, as part of the offering compromise, if it's found as to collectability, without any special circumstances or anything like that, and hopefully if you did it on your own or you used our services or you use another tax professional to go ahead and do the offering compromise, one of the things that happen is that the IRS will take any refund from the year that the offering compromise is accepted and any previous refunds. So if you go ahead and let's say, for example, you had an offer, or I had an offer in compromise that was accepted by the IRS during 2020. I didn't get my rebate recovery credit. I go ahead and, the economic impact payments. I'm requesting the rebate recovery credit on my 2020 tax return. I'm getting a nice little refund. Unfortunately, again, because I signed that offering compromise that states that the IRS will take any refund from the year that the offer is accepted and any previous years, then they'll go ahead and take that refund. So that's something to keep in mind. I know, like I said, we do this a lot for our clients, and I know this is a good option for a lot of taxpayers when they do have some tax liability from previous years. I also want to discuss the domestic violence. As we know, and I think we've discussed in previous webinars that we've done, survivors of domestic violence who file a 2019 tax return jointly with the other partner or spouse, and then there was an incidence of a domestic violence afterwards, or there was something, or there's a divorce after, and the entire economic impact payment, the first round and the second round, or one round and not the other, was actually sent to the other spouse's bank account, or it was sent out to the address, and now you've moved out. We've been working very hard to have the IRS resolve this. At this point, the IRS is not willing to make any changes. And I still would recommend, and I still would advise to go ahead and claim the rebate recovery credit on your tax return. Okay, make that claim. You should have already done an identity theft or a request for that stimulus payment to be sent to you, because it was sent to the wrong address or to the wrong bank account, because it's no longer your bank account, and you didn't have enough time to change that. Go ahead and make this rebate recovery credit, and then there's going to be some type of, the IRS is likely to reject it, and then you can go ahead and reach out to us or to any other tax professional to see if there's a way that we can work with that rejection and actually get you the payment. So it's something that I wanted to, I know we all are ready to be filing our 2020 tax return and maybe making these claims. It's something that we at this time are recommending that maybe that's the way of kind of handling this situation. Okay, the next one. Now we're going to move forward. We're not going to be talking about stimulus payments or the rebate recovery credit. We're going to be talking about the look back. This is something that the IRS provides for any area that has been declared a natural disaster or something like that. And this year, since the entire country is dealing with the pandemic, is a relief that is being granted to all taxpayers, regardless of where you live. So the first one, that it really impacts two big credits, the earned income credit and the child tax credit and the additional child tax credit. So I want to talk a little bit about the earned income credit. As you can see here on the slide, the earned income credit is like a bill. In other words, the less money you earn, on this side, on one side you have the amount of income, the amount of credit, I'm sorry, and on the x-axis you have the income. The less money you make, the less credit you're going to have, and of course, it also depends on how many children and dependents you have. And then as the more you start earning, that credit starts increasing until it gets kind of like a plateau. And that's what, you know, in the tax world we call the sweet point, where you get the maximum amount of earned income credit. And the more you start earning, then that money starts, once again, that credit starts decreasing, okay? Until it goes into zero. So once again, the less you earned, or the less money you made, the less the credit, it starts going up, it plateaus, and then as the more money you make, it starts once again decreasing. The problem with earned income credit is right in the title of the wording of the credit is you must earn income. Unemployment benefits are not earned income, or they're not considered earned income for this type of credit. So if in your household, the majority of the income that came in is from unemployment benefits because you were furloughed or you lost your job due to the pandemic, then the credit is going to be very small. So what you can do is you can take your 2019 tax return, and I recommend when you're doing your taxes, take it to your tax preparer, because what they can do is use your earned income from 2019 to calculate what your earned income tax credit is going to be for 2020. Let's give you an example. Let's say, looking at this chart, I have 3 children, and I made in 2019, I made about $15,000, okay? If you look at this chart, that means that my earned income credit should be $6,660, okay? And that's 2019, remember that. I made $15,000. Now let's come in 2020, I lost my job. I only really received somewhere around maybe $7,000 in earned income, and the rest was unemployment benefits. Once again, unemployment benefits are not going to be taken into consideration. So now I'm looking at a $7,000 worth of income. I should be receiving somewhere in the $3,000 range for earned income credit this year in 2020. What we can do is say, no, I'm for just purposes of calculating how much credit I'm going to get this year for 2020, I'm going to look back at the $15,000 that I earned in 2019, that pushes me back to that 6,660 range, okay? So it's, once again, I do, and we actually were able to do this back in 2000, I wanna say 19, 18, when we know in Collier County was hit by the hurricane, and we were able to actually kind of look back to the previous year for those individuals who lost their job, or due to the hurricane were not working for several weeks, couldn't go back to their job. Then we were able to take this advantage of this look back rule. And this year, like I said, all taxpayers throughout the country are able to do this. Let's move to the next page. And so the next one is, again, the child tax credit and the additional child tax credit. It works the same way, okay? So this credit is $2,000 for every child that is 17 or younger, okay, under the age of 17. And then 14 out of those can be refundable. In other words, if you owe taxes, the $2,000 from the child tax credit can come and make like you don't owe any taxes. If you don't owe any taxes as it is, because you had enough withholding, or you have a big standard deduction and you didn't make a lot of money, and then you go ahead and you can do the additional tax credit that is actually refundable to you up to $1,400. As you can see, the child tax rate is very similar to the earned income credit. The more you make, the more that credit kind of goes up to the $2,000, but then again, it starts falling. Same example, let's say I made only $7,000 in 2020. I have 3 kids. Now my refundable part is going to be approximately, let's say $3,000, okay? If I look back to my 2019, my earned income credit, I can push it back up and get actually the $2,000 per child, okay? Okay, let's move forward. Next slide. Okay. Again, so I just wanna, no, the following, the previous one, sorry. So again, this is just a nice summary where it tells you what I just explained, that if you are in a position that you're going to someone, whether it's, or you're doing it on your own, on a website, whether it's TurboTax or TaxSlayer, or through the IRS website, what I really recommend because it's free. They will ask you whether you want to go through every single part of the credits, and it's going to ask you, do you want to use your 2019 income? You're going to click yes. You're going to take you need to have a copy of the 2019, and you need to look at the page where it says earned income, and where they did the calculations for your earned income credit for 2019. You're going to use the same number. You're going to put it there, and the program is going to calculate for you, so you don't have to make a decision, because you're saying, yeah, how do I know which one's better? It's actually the program or the software will make the calculation for you. Say, look, according to our calculation, you're better off using your 2020 earned income for this calculation. Or you may say, no, you know what? You're better off using your 2019, okay? So, or if you're going to someone, go ahead and take your 2019 tax return, making sure that they understand that is something that we can do this year. We can do that look back rule, and you can utilize it and maybe just have a little bit more of a tax break this year. That's it. Next slide. So our phone number is here, 239-775-4555. We are not doing tax preparation. We are a low-income taxpayer clinic. We provide tax services for taxpayers who are in some type of, have a sub-type of tax controversy with the IRS, whether they're being audited or they're getting letters from the IRS saying that they owe money. We do not provide a tax preparation, but you can always call 211. That is the United Way in Collier County. They are providing VITA, which is a very important program because it is free tax preparation services and assistance to the community. The volunteers have to go through testing and get certified by the IRS to be able to prepare taxes. So you know that you're getting someone who is being trained by the IRS, is going to do your taxes correctly, and that is not going to, and is going to have all this information because they've been trained and they've been passing some certification to be able to be part of the VITA community, to go ahead and prepare your taxes. And you should always, even if they don't ask you, you should always provide your 2019 tax return to make sure that they know that maybe you want to use that income. Also, let them know how much money of the rebate recovery credit, of the economic impact payments you receive, the first round and the second round, because maybe you're eligible for the rebate recovery credit, okay? If you receive the economic impact payments and you're not eligible, or you while you do your 2020 tax return, meaning that you earned too much money in 2020, or something happens, the IRS has said that this money you do not have to pay back. So let's say, in 2020, I had a great year and I made more than the $75,000 and I shouldn't have received, and I did receive because in 2019, I actually made less than $75,000, making me eligible for the stimulus payment. You don't have to pay that money back. You don't have to tell your tax preparer. You do have to tell them that you received it too, so they can know not to claim any credit, but you don't have to repay any excess that you received. Okay, and that is our presentation today. Like again, our number is 239-775-4555. If you have any questions, you can always contact us there. Thank you so much for your time and your attention.